at how lovely my skirt is. How lovely.
Hello lovelies! Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to make a Gibson Girl blouse out of the insertion lace that I embroidered last week. As I have mentioned a few times in this channel, I am working on developing my me-made wardrobe. And I thought that this Gibson Girl blouse would be a great addition in a white or ivory color to my summer wardrobe collection. We are making it in a very crisp white out of a cotton lawn so that it's breathable and easy to wash. It is the summer and it is hot and humid in Georgia, so I wanted something that I could wear that was both breathable and washable. So I'm going to be using cotton lawn to make this blouse, and then I will be using the Folkwear Gibson Girl Blouse pattern to make this. I will also be using elastic in the armbands instead of doing cuffs, and then I'm also going to be using snaps to close it in the back. I will walk through all of that in the tutorial, and I guess it's time to just start sewing. The first thing that I needed to do on this blouse was add 2 inches to the length of the pattern. I have used this pattern before and it was just a bit too short on me, so this added length will help me be able to tuck my shirt into my skirts, as well as just allow me to feel more confident wearing it. Then it was time to cut my fabric. I did skip cutting out the cuffs so I could replace them with elastic at the end of the hem, and I also did not cut out the front yoke. Since it's going to have so much modification to it, I decided I will cut that out in the pieces as I form them. Okay, so I'm using this pattern paper transfer stuff on the back of my shirt to mark the tuck lines. I have a video on doing tucks, so I'm not going to really dive super deep into this. I will link the video, but basically I'm going to mark the middle line and then flip this over, do the other side, and then pin and sew them and see what happens. I decided to use my light box to help me see the lines through my fabric so that I could pin them. Then I went over to my iron to press my fabric and get a really crisp edge. And there I pinned my fabric again about 1 inch away from this edge or so that I could sew my fabric without worrying about taking out the pins while I was sewing across the fabric. And back to my ironing board so that I could press the tuck away from the center. Okay. So I am going to show you how to do insertion lace on this extra piece of lace and this purple fabric because my footage was awful and not intuitive at all. So we're going to try this again. So this is our panel of fabric, the purple, and this is our lace. And I am going to pin my lace exactly where I want it to go on my dress. I'm also going to be using 2 different colored thread. I'll use white on top and gray on bottom just to help so when I flip this over, you'll kind of get an idea and get to see what's going on stitch wise. And then now I'm going to stitch along this line here. I do not want to go in this crevice right here. I just want to go along all of this so that I am inside of this outer stitch line, if that makes sense. Okay, so I have my gray thread on this side and white thread on the top. I will also mention that I did a 3 millimeter stitch length. The regular stitch length in my machine is a 2.4 millimeter stitch length, so I upped it just a little bit so my needle could get through this thicker layer of lace, and that'll also just make it a little bit easier getting everything through it when I'm done. So now I'm just going to go right down the middle of this, and it's totally okay if it's not perfect. I personally try my hardest. You can draw if you want, but I like to eyeball it. I'm not super concerned. But basically right down the center back of this lace, I am going to cut down this. And basically this is what Like the steps I'm showing you are basically how I did the front of the yoke. So now I'm going to press my fabric completely away from my lace. Okay, so then I am going to fold and press this down. But something that I have an issue with personally is when I go to press this down, even if I like hold it, you know, for a really long time, and then I move on to this other side, it will start to pop up. And when it starts to pop up, if I go to sew this without adding pins or anything, I have to sew it kind of with this side up. And I don't like bobbin thread on the top. I just don't think that looks necessary, like pretty. So I'm actually using this stuff called Stitch Perfection tape. I've used this a few times in my videos, but when I decided I was gonna try to use this for my insertion lace to make my life a little easier, I didn't know what to expect. I was kind of worried at first. And then I did it on my my blouse and it worked so well. Okay, so basically what this is a double-sided tape. It is water soluble, so it will wash out when I go to wash my shirt, and it doesn't actually gum up your needle. I don't know if you've ever sewn with anything that has like a glue or a stickiness to it and then have it like affect your needle. This does not do that, and that's why I really like it. I've used it a few times in my channel. So once I get the second side down, I'm going to sew it down and then I'll come back and show you. Okay, so you can see on this side, I got to use my white thread, and on the back side, I was able to use a gray thread, or like if I was doing this with purple and white, I would have used white, but I really want purple, but I used a gray just because that's what I had in my machine, and it all stitched fine. I didn't have to use any pins, which makes kind of sewing this a pain in the butt. And I didn't have to worry about it flipping up on me, even though I pressed it. Sometimes, you know, whatever. But anyway, there it is. Okay, so this is my idea, and this might fail, but who knows. So I drew some of the outline, I don't know if you can see the purple, of the yoke onto this square of fabric, rectangle. It's a rectangle, my bad. And I have my insertion lace pinned. This is going to be the center front. So I'm going to sew this down, cut down the middle like I normally would for insertion lace, fold, fold, sew. Then I am going to do my pin tucks. I'm going to do 3 pin tucks this way with the hopes that, so like it's going to all come crushing down, right? So like this whole thing is going to get moved in here. And then I will place this back on here, following my center line, and remark where this ends up, and then cut based off of that, and then add this piece. This piece, or is it the longer piece? I think it's the longer piece. Let me look. Yeah, it has to be a longer piece. So like one of these pieces, and so half of it, and make sure it mirrors, and then we'll cut for the next piece here that's gonna have, wow, I'm off camera. So for the piece here that's gonna have pin tucking, I will do something similar where I will cut a much larger piece out and pin tuck it down, press it, and then piece it in to where I need it to fit for the yoke. So the goal, or the idea is middle piece, pin tucks, side embroidery piece, pin tucks, like 3 pin tucks. I'm going to stick with the 3 because that's what's on this, and I don't know. I like repetition. And then that's the rest of the yoke. Same on the other side. So let's see if that works. Okay, so all I have to show for today is my yoke. And then I finished the front piece that goes below the yoke. So like this goes here, and I finished the piece that goes here. And that's really it. I was gonna try to get the sleeves done today too, but that will just have to wait until Friday. And at that time, I have no plans at night, so I might try to pull a long day so I can make the whole thing. But we're gonna do the insertion lace in the sleeves, and then I'm gonna start putting this all together. And hopefully by the end of Friday, I'll have a new shirt to wear, which would be really exciting because I'm also filming something on Sunday. And how cool would it be to wear the shirt for that filming? Anyway, this is just how my brain works. For the placement of the lace on each sleeve, I used my handy dandy light box that was gifted to me by Daylight Company, and I placed my pattern down, and then I placed my sleeve piece on top of it and pinned the lace right in place. I decided to change the needle size to a 90-14 needle for the lace, and it actually stitched the lace down way better than the 80. And this is where my insertion lace journey began. And this probably took me most of the morning to do all of these pieces of lace, but it was well worth it because I think it looks pretty great now that it's done. Okay, so I've finished the back of the sleeve, and it's not the most beautiful thing in the world, but it is done. And now I'm just gonna assemble the sleeve. I've already finished the other sleeve, I'll show you. So I add elastic into the hem here, and I did a French seam in here. When I add the sleeve to the actual blouse, I'm gonna just do an overcast stitch to black up all the edges. But until then, we're just gonna leave it raw. And then I also did my gather stitch already, and once I gather it down and get it in and sew it down, I'll take this stitch out. So we're gonna do that. So the first thing to do is, with the wrong sides together, we're gonna sew this sleeve up. So I'm gonna do a French seam. After I French seamed the sleeves, I went ahead and French seamed the bodice pieces. This was the front, the side front, and the back pieces, and I did all of these in one go. After that, I attached the yoke to the bottom piece and then the yoke sleeve pieces together, the shoulder pieces together. Once those were attached, I needed to clean up the edges, so I did this using my overcast stitch that is built into my machine, and it cleaned them up pretty easily. I just didn't want to bring my serger out to do this because right now I have gray thread in my serger, and I was pretty lazy, so I was like, well, I have this attachment, so might as well use it. For the bottom hem, I just rolled the bottom up about a ½ an inch twice, and then I stitched that down with a straight stitch, and that did the trick for that. I repeated this step for the back as well so that I could have a nice little back like finished seam before sewing on the snaps and the collar. I sewed the collar pieces with their right sides together, and then I flipped them right side out, and I pinned and stitched it onto the top of the yoke. Then to kind of fully finish this, I use Stitch Perfection tape again to get this bottom flap to kind of hit and connect to my blouse or the yoke top, and then I actually top stitch this all closed. This is my preferred method of doing this. It kind of deviates from the instructions, but I don't mind because it is fast. Finally, I'm going to gather my sleeve down to have my sleeve line up inside my sleeve hole, and I also match up the notches and the markings from the pattern. Then after I have pinned all of this, I will sew it by machine, and then again use that overcast or overedge stitch to kind of clean up this sleeve. Basically at this point, all that's left is going to be sewing on snaps and taking out any gather stitches that are seen. I don't have footage of these things because these aren't things that I typically get a lot of footage of. So I guess let's just watch me walk around this pretty house in my cute little outfit and close out this video. As always, thank you for watching this video. I would also love to thank everyone who supports me on Patreon. That's my members-only website where you can support the channel and get exclusive benefits like early access to my videos, monthly members-only live streams, digital patterns, embroidery files, and access to the Discord server. The link is in the description of this video. Thank you all for watching, and make sure you subscribe to my channel, comment below, and give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. And I'm currently working on some lightweight, breathable garments that I can wear. Man, I'm so attractive. Look how cute I am. And then I burp. For this construction. Wow. I can do this. You know why? I've done it before. Look at the lighting change.
And then when I
I don't belong. I don't belong. Paparazzi.